G'day everyone, welcome to another video by myself, Andrew DFT, and of course welcome to part 2 of the How to Mass Effect Andromeda Shuriken pistol. Now of course when we left off we had the major build of this constructed. It started to look a lot like a Shuriken and we were starting to put some of this top detail in. But of course what we now need to do is go in and do the more extreme detail that really highlights this and really makes it look like the actual piece we're trying to achieve. Now it is rather difficult, this coming part, but do take your time. Always make sure you know where exactly you're going to be cutting before you do it, and make sure you keep your hands out of the way of the blade because we're going to be putting it in rather close to where fingers might be, so just watch out for that. Otherwise, let's jump in and finish it off. Alright, so jumping in where we left off, we're going to go ahead and finish off all the major key parts of detail that need to be excavated into the main core. So we'll go ahead and grab this front piece and we'll actually cut the template away, transfer in of course the lines, the diagonal lines. We're actually going to just cut it off just above the horizontal point. This is going to allow us to really excavate it and give us a lovely piece of detail sitting there at the front. So remember, the technique was to cut down into a 90-degree angle, and then coming back in on a beveled 45 degree and then just shave off the internal segments. Now we're going to go ahead and do it for the lower section, and then of course all those fun little pieces of detail you can see at the bottom left of the gun. But before we do that, we're going to quickly finish off the lower section of this barrel. We're actually going to make it a new lower level. So to do that, we'll apply a horizontal line straight in there and then add a depth line about 1/4 inch of the way through the foam and then cut that whole segment out, being sure to do it on both sides. Once you've done that, we can of course move into the excavation and all the cool detail that's going to be oh so fun to carve, and will take a lot of time and patience. So go ahead and of course continue the line. You can see it flows nicely down from the top part down into the lower segment. Of course, it's the same technique, down on a 90 degree, in on a 45, and then shave out the internal segments until it's nice and clean. Now before we do this interior diagonal details, we're actually going to go ahead and just give this a nice beveled edge to kind of round the design over. So simply put in a horizontal line, of course, where the negative template tells you to, and then finish off this with a depth line continuing from that piece we cut off originally. Then take your nice sharp craft blade and slice that segment off. It should only go just there at the front. Now of course onto the fun detailing. I'll show you how of course just to do one of those and you can go off and do them in your, well, it's all in spare time, isn't it? Go ahead and lay it in and then put in those 4 lines. Make sure they're as horizontal to each other and they end at the same point up on the top. Then of course carefully go in with a 90-degree angle, then back in on a 45 and then clean it out. And once you've done all of those on both sides, those details will look fantastic. And well, I can't lie with that photo, it looks really pretty, and that's what I love about styrofoam. It always looks so much better than what EVA foam can achieve. Now to finish off most of this gun, we're going to go down to the hand guard, and we're actually going to add a depth line and a perimeter line on the edge there. You can physically draw them in yourself. Trying to use the template might be a bit difficult, but once you've got them in there nicely, you simply go with your nice sharp craft blade and slice those edges off. You can already see it starting to really make it have a nice 3D form rather than the blocky 90-degree corners that had a minute ago. I'm talking present and past tense in one go. Continuing on, we'll go ahead and grab the template and lay in this internal segment, which of course we're going to go ahead and excavate just to make it look again a bit more 3D and a lot cooler. So just using the same technique, 90 in, 45 in, and nice shaving. Yeah. Now I know I said this is where the fun begins in the previous video, but this is where the fun begins. This is where we're going to go ahead and apply all the tiny, very fragile pieces of detail. Simply use the template and carefully notch in where those segments should actually be, and then you're going to use a cardboard or whatever, Pokemon card, to actually transfer those segments across the foam, and you want to make them as horizontal as possible so that way they're all even, and you're going to have to remember which ones to cut and which ones not to. As you can see, they all look rather confusing, but as long as you mark them out and you keep an eye on where you're cutting, you shouldn't have a problem, because this is where you can stuff up the design rather drastically, or you can make it look absolutely beautiful. And we want it to look beautiful. So once you've got it actually set, all you're going in and doing is pretty much like we've been doing prior with the excavation, simply cutting in 90 degree, in on 45, and then shaving out the interior pieces of detail and slowly working your way across the design, so that way you'll have something looking like that. Now of course repeat the process and do all of those and you'll have something beautiful like that, which when you paint is going to look phenomenal. But of course make sure you do it properly and take your time and watch where you're cutting. Now that we're at this segment, we'll go ahead and actually sand using some fine grit sandpaper all the rough edges that we initially cut before. But once you've got that all sorted, we can move on and finish off all the details that we need. And first up is applying the nice little piece of design that sits on the handle. To do that, we'll cut the handle interior section in half, so that way we're left with this nice kind of curve. We'll go ahead and lay that in with a nice pen, and then where you can see marked out, I've kind of carried it down, marking in and linking up to the other side. Make sure you do that because we're actually going to go ahead and cut into that. Pretty much this is like scoring for EVA foam. You cut in on a 90 degree, then come in carefully on a 45, which leaves this nice kind of edge, and then using like a pen tip, you can go in and just smooth it out, and it becomes a nice piece of detail. That's pretty much the equivalent to heat treating a scored line. Then we'll move on and apply an extra thickness of foam. So grab the template, of course, for the back segment, the butt of this gun, and we're actually going to cut out a new piece of styrofoam. Now, to make it as thick as you want is up to you, but I'm going with about 1/4 inch. So I'm going to lay in that depth line and then carry the depth line around the design so I know where exactly I'm cutting when I rotate it around and slice it through like this. But once you've got it cut free, you can go ahead and simply glue it on. It should sit in there relatively well as long as you've used the template correctly and got the right size. If not, just trim it until it fits perfectly. And then we'll go ahead and break apart the template and slowly place in these rectangle lines, which of course will add as detail. The smaller piece points towards the front, just reminding you because I've actually made the mistake on a few of them. So I'm trying to help you out. Yeah, you're welcome. Then go ahead and just use the basic excavation technique we've been doing this whole time. In on 90, then on 45, then in on shaving, and that should leave a very nice piece left over. And, well, frankly, that's pretty much most of the gun done. All that's left for you to do now is go and add some additional detail to your own personal liking. I went with just a random strip up here, a little notch at the back for like a charging port, and then a little iron sight triangle, and a trigger. You gotta do the trigger. But it's completely up to you on how you want to do it. And you can add so many different customizations like the game actually has. But that's the very gist of the basic Shuriken from Styrofoam. Yeah. So that's it. All done and dusted. Now remember, you can go and take this a whole lot further by adding customizations, personalizations, and your own personal paint job. If you want references or extra ideas on what you could do to customize it or take it further, just look at the game. You can get a whole bunch of modifications in-game that give you the 3D models, so you can get a better understanding of what you could do to take it a bit further to make yours a bit different from everyone else's out there. Or you can leave it the same because it looks rather nice how it is, and just maybe make another so you can have two and just have them displayed nicely and painted up well, and who knows, you might love them both. But I'm glad you guys made it through and got there in the end, and to be honest, this is probably one of my favorite Mass Effect designs. It's both sleek, simple, and definitely looks Mass Effect in its design, so therefore it's a win-win-win for both prop making and a fan, so yeah. Now of course, if you're still playing Mass Effect Andromeda and you want to make more props, be sure to check out some of my other videos. We do have plenty of, I don't know why I say we. I'm the only one here on this channel, but I do have other videos, of course, relating to Mass Effect Andromeda for props, so check those out if you haven't built them already. And of course, like the video if you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you're new here and haven't subscribed yet, maybe consider doing so. Plenty more cool content on the way, you don't want to miss it. And if you do, then fair enough, don't subscribe, because it'll notify you if you do. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Until the next one, catch you later. Yeah.